And the past month has been a massive whirlwind for me and people close to me. I want to thank the MIT Open Discourse Society and Spencer for welcoming me to their lovely campus. Democrats for an informed approach to gender for helping provide reflections and extensive logistical support, and the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression for their continued campaign to raise awareness of my situation. I also want to thank the countless individuals and other organizations who have collaborated with me. I have a lot of their logos up here. There are a lot of people who obviously care about this topic and they really come out to support me here. I would also like to thank you, the audience, for caring about the health and safety of children with gender dysphoria. Lastly, on a more somber note, I would like to acknowledge the hate that I've received as a result of organizing this event. So I want to take you guys through some examples of the comments I've received on my Instagram posts over the past couple of weeks. So I'll also say that I have annotations of who these people are. These are current Berkeley students. And it's one thing to say, oh wow, this person's a piece of fucking shit. Or what a fucking weirdo ass on shit weasel, etc. That's one thing. That's protected under free speech, that's fine. You're being a jerk. But this is where we start to get into the sort of borderline territory of, is this an assignment of violence? Is this a threat? I don't know. You can say it either way. Again, current Berkeley students. This one very clearly a threat. This is a recent Berkeley alum who said that he's going to come to this event and show expired groceries at me. Expired groceries does include canned food. You could pretty easily knock somebody out with a can of food. This person, Clifford, who is also a Berkeley student, told me to take a long walk off the cliff. That's a violation of Berkeley's code of ethics and community standards, and I have reported him to the appropriate departments. Let me read this one to you. This one says, secure a bigger venue. How about you secure your base on my T-Dick? This one is pretty rough, because, is this a threat of sexual assault? You can make your mind up yourself. I could see it going either way. I'd also like to read this one for you. And something to my price, I'm going to say this from the bottom of my heart. The hate and backlash for this is 100% justified. Note, this includes the threats and all of the things people have said that I put up on the screen here and many more. The fact that you're accusing us of death threats is incredibly offensive. Having the autism and queer part of myself, I know when and how to save myself with those. But you have absolutely no right to defend yourself by saying you're queer and you're autistic. I will note that I never said I'm queer. I do not identify as queer. I consider that to be a homophobic slur. I am bisexual, nothing more, nothing less. It hurts us. It really does. This is why we disowned you from those two communities, and don't think you can get back in quite easily. Instead of trying to postpone this event, why don't you sit in your lonely, abandoned, rat-filled shithole and think about how you brought nearly an entire college community to shambles, you piece of shit. Not great. This person came into my DMs attacking me. And one of the things they said was, detransition isn't real. It's not a thing. Right there. I'd like this person to meet some of my friends like Richie Herring, Chloe Cole, Kira Bell, Laura Becker. I can, keep naming detransitioners who are real people who exist and who have suffered because of this. Who this person is denying the existence, which is erasure. And oh yeah, there's so much more. Oh, and I think this person compared me to a Nazi. I would like this person to come into my synagogue and tell this to my friends at synagogue that I'm a Nazi. I think that would go over really well. Anyway. So the one of the points I want to make here is that this is the same sort of hate I received in middle school. I went to Boston Latin school, and kids were assholes to me. Again, sorry for language, this is not presentation for children. You know, on the daily, they called me the F slur because I didn't fit into their, rigid definition of masculinity. I did on one occasion, indeed in 8th grade, receive a death threat. Now, the same thing is happening. People are attacking me on the basis of my identity, on the basis of how I act. They are threatening to attack me, they're telling me to kill myself, and they are using slurs against me. Same page, different package. So, I want to tell you a little bit about my story, because that's what this event originally was supposed to be about. For those of you, for those of you who don't know me, I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Simon Amaya. I stand before you today as a 20-year-old man, but for 3 years of my life, I thought I was a woman. I was miserable during this period of my life, genuinely. Now I'm here talking about it, despite the threats, and despite the fact that my home institution, Berkeley College of Music, tried to shut me up and sweep me under the rug. Growing up, I was an unusual child. I didn't engage in rough and tumble play. I was more interested in academic subjects like math and science. I was somewhat bitter non-conforming. I got along better with girls and I detested other boys. In the 7th and 8th grades, I attended Boston Latin School, which, for those of you who don't know, is Boston's preeminent public dance school. As I still do, I wore long khakis and button-down shirts daily, which earned me the following remark from my best friend at the time. "Hey Simon, you look like a lesbian." At Boston Latin School, as I mentioned earlier, I was called the F slur on a near daily basis. I received unsolicited pictures of male genitalia on my flip phone, and yes, it took about 5 minutes to load each picture. And as I mentioned before, on at least one occasion, I did receive a death threat from a fellow student. At 13, in the midst of this homophobic bullying from my peers, I came out to my parents as bisexual. The next year, I transferred to a new school, hoping to find a better environment for me and, get along with people better, find some more math classes and that such. For the 9th grade. So things initially seemed to get better. I had a group of friends I got along well with, and overall my classmates were genuinely much nicer. I wasn't being called, the F slur in the hallway on the daily. Nobody was threatening to kill me. Nobody was looking at me menacingly, brandishing, a knife outside of school or anything. Unfortunately though, I'm sad to inform you that this relatively peaceful period was short-lived. An older boy sexually assaulted me on a school trip, and no one believed me when I told them. I was 14 at the time, and he was 18. That same year, one of my so-called friends made inappropriate sexual advances on me. And after rejecting her, she spread rumors about me behind my back, which led to my complete ostracization from my friend group. This sent a very clear message to me. As a 14-year-old boy, I felt like, wow, there's a double standard here. I'm being ignored on the basis of my gender. So, I found myself in a really rough place mentally. It was also around this time when I learned about the gender unicorn in health class. So I want to take you through this graphic. So this is a very common graphic used by schools across the US in health classes when talking about gender identity and sexual orientation. I'm sure there are some people in the audience who maybe might not see the issues with this or might even agree with it. That's fine, thank you for coming. But as you can see, it differentiates gender identity from gender expression, from sex assigned at birth, from physically attracted to emotionally attracted to. And I think for young people, this kind of overcomplicates reality, right? I don't think this is, an accurate reflection of how people actually are, genuinely. It's just, I don't think it's appropriate for a school health class, especially for young kids. Right, so, at this, I felt like something was wrong with me at this time. And so as most kids in my generation do, I went to Google. Soon enough, I came to the conclusion that I was trans, that I was really a girl trapped in a boy's body. Around this time as well, I was seeing a therapist at Boston Children's Hospital. who referred me to their gender multi-specialty services or GENS clinic. Here's their website. So this is so Boston Children's, the Children's Hospital we all know in Boston. They're kind of the cutting edge for children's health and medicine here. They have this clinic, which is for gender-related issues. And I'll point you to a part on their website where they say they welcome patients from ages 3 to 25. I question whether it's appropriate to be asking a 3-year-old about their gender or their sex. That doesn't really make much sense to me when they're still learning how to differentiate themselves from dragons and unicorns. So they also say that they use the gender affirmative model of care. And from my research and my experience, what that means is they affirm children's stated gender identities without question, which you may or may not disagree with. I personally disagree with. I think it's inappropriate when we're talking about, let's say, 3-year-olds, and even 14-year-olds, as I was. So later in June of 2019, my pediatrician asked my father while I was there in the room, "Do you want a dead son or a living daughter?" in an attempt to convince him to take me to this gender clinic. For a lot of families and parents in the room who have gender dysphoric youth, I know that this will sound familiar to you because this is a very common line that I have heard. I know this from talking to a lot of my Desister friends. I know this talking to a lot of my Detransitioner friends. And I know this from talking to a lot of parents who've interacted with this really dire issue. So I'll add that not only was the statement false, here I am, a live son, it was also essentially emotional blackmail and medical malpractice. Using a child's life as a bargaining chip and pushing forward a pseudo-scientific ideology is absolutely reprehensible. In no other medical setting is it appropriate to bring up suicide like this. I believe that any doctor who says this should lose their license. Thankfully, due to my father's steadfast opposition, I never went to GEMS. I hated him for years because of it. But today, I understand just how lucky I am that he fought for my health as he did. He did his research, he stood his ground, and I'm happy to say that we have in large part repaired the damage caused in this period of my life. If I were in his shoes, and I really mean this, I wouldn't have done a single thing differently. Instead of going down the path of irreversible surgeries and hormones, we made the decision together for me to start seeing a new therapist who focused on treating my past traumas, depression, and anxiety, things my previous therapist had failed to address, and instead focused on affirming my gender identity. Through this exploration and being allowed the time and space to uncover the true causes of my gender questioning, I eventually received an autism diagnosis. Shortly after, at the age of 17, I started the process of Detransition and began living as a man after my first year or so of college. I know that there are parents in the audience who would like to know the name of my therapist, but I cannot share his name with you because doing so would threaten his job. In Massachusetts, our law banning conversion therapy has been hijacked by trans activists to include gender identity. Due to the wording of the law, therapists are afraid to do anything except affirm their patients' gender identities, no matter how transient they may be, as not doing so could lead to a loss of their license to practice. This prevents kids like me, your kids, from getting the care they really need. Stories like mine are becoming more common. More and more people in my generation are desisting and detransitioning, realizing that rejecting oneself at a cellular level is not the route to a happy life. I'm one of the lucky ones. I never took cross-sex hormones or underwent irreversible surgeries. Unfortunately, this is something I cannot say of many of my friends, people like Richie Herron, Kira Bell, and Chloe Cole, who do not have the option of moving on with their lives as if nothing happened. For those of you who don't know, that's Kira Bell. She had a mastectomy, I believe it was at 17 in the UK, and has since filed and won a major lawsuit against their Tavistock clinic in the UK, That's Andrew Doyle, he is a detransitioner. That's Richie Heron, he's a personal friend of mine, he's also from the UK. He had a vaginoplasty, which is the inversion of the penis, as a young lad, and has since started the process of detransitioning and spoke up about it. And that's Chloe Cole over there, who I also know personally, who had a double mastectomy as well as a minor in the US. And it was wrong. And I want to, make this very clear to, I know there are some critical people in the audience, that every single detransitioner who has gone through this, who is living the rest of their lives without body parts, which they cut off, that were perfectly healthy, is a tragedy. And we can disagree on a lot of the specifics of how we should treat, real trans people, let's say. But what we can't disagree, what I'm not willing to disagree on, is the fact that these people have to live the rest of their lives with damaged bodies as lifelong medical patients. And I really don't want to go into the specifics here because they are absolutely awful. So fast forwarding to a month or two ago. So I wanted to follow up on that. So many of the same people who embraced us while we were trans, those who were quick to condemn homophobia, have turned their backs on it, calling us transphobes and turks, grossly misrepresenting our views, sending us threats, and likening us to Nazis both online and in the street. It's really no wonder so few of us speak up. Now we're fast forwarding to the present day. So a month or two ago, I was assigned a project in my songwriting and social change class at Berkeley College of Music. And my classmates and I were tasked with organizing events about social topics that we were passionate about and we wanted to create some sort of long-term change. And, my fellow students' topics included eating disorders, homelessness, and the burdens of motherhood, and different sorts of things like that. And their events went off without a hitch. For my topic, I decided to talk about my experience as a desister. After receiving approval from my professor, I reached out to a number of the college's departments to plan my events. I secured a venue through Berkeley's events department, security through public safety, and funding from the college's Office of Diversity and Inclusion. But things went south on October 15th when I started my promotional campaign with flyers and an Instagram post. I woke up the next day to more than 400 overwhelmingly negative comments on my post announcing the event. I was shocked. I hadn't expected more than 20 people to like my post. And I certainly didn't expect to receive a torrent of hatred, threats of physical and sexual assault, and wishes for my death from my fellow Berkeley students. I was targeted not just online, but in person. My first time back on campus after the post. Several students yelled at me on the street, and others made snide comments about me as they passed by. This has become a daily occurrence for me on campus. Just the other day, I was in the lobby of 150, and some kid yelled at me, "Hey Simon, fuck you." Not a really accepting place, unfortunately. So on October 17th, I met with Ronald Savage, Vice President of and Executive Director of Berkeley, regarding my events. In this meeting, Mr. Savage expressly committed to making my event a reality, but recommended that I postpone it for safety and logistical reasons. I decided to take his recommendation, as I had received threats for several days preceding the meeting. To my dismay, when I met him on October 21st, he told me that he was indefinitely postponing my events. I, along with my father, who was present in both meetings, feel that Mr. Savage caved into political pressure from my fellow students, using safety concerns as an excuse to not honor his word. The truth is that my event was canceled simply because I was giving voice to a marginalized experience. More accurately, there was a large number of people who do not want people like me, or Chloe, or Richie, or Kira to exist, because we are living counterexamples to one of the fundamental tenets of their ideology, that every minor with gender dysphoria must medically transition. That is a damned lie, which has harmed so many vulnerable kids, parents, and families, people who are in this room right now. Berkeley has not responded to the letter that the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression sent to school on November 1st, which showed how Berkeley's decision to indefinitely postpone my event is a breach of the college's own speech code. Berkeley claims to support free speech and expression, but its refusal to stand by those principles when things get heated shines light on their true intentions. Since October 21st, I have heard from countless Berkeley students, alumni, professors, who feel that Berkeley preferentially protects free speech along the lines of identity and political affiliation. I've heard from desisters and detransitioners across the country. I've heard from parents, all telling me that what I'm doing is right and brave. And these are just the Instagram DMs that I got in the first week of this. I've gotten many emails, I've gotten texts from people I know, and emails from the Eventbrite system, and just an overwhelming amount of support. And a lot of these people are afraid to say comment or speak publicly on this because they're afraid of going through exactly what I have gone through, which is receiving threats on our physical health and safety, being yelled at in person, on the street, on our college campus, and so much more. The attempts by, I also heard, I'm far from the first to suffer the consequences of something like this at Berkeley. I heard from one professor recently that a professor was recently fired for using their personal social media profile to express the reasonable and honest political views. I think this is a systemic problem at Berkeley, and it needs a serious investigation, and they need to change some things. The attempts by my classmates and Berkeley administration to sweep my event under the rug has, ironically, caused it to receive far more publicity than it would have otherwise. Here I am now standing at MIT, giving my presentation. I have received press from the Boston Herald, from the Daily Signal. I'm even making the frogs gate on InfoWars. Berkeley says that it respects the rights, dignity, and creative expression of all. Where is my dignity and creative expression? Berkeley's mission should be to prepare its students for the real world, a world in which people hold different perspectives and experiences. Shutting down unpopular speech in the face of threats and violence only encourages the worst of tendencies. It is my sincere hope that with this event, Berkeley will see the error of its ways and extend an invitation to me to give this presentation at my home institution as originally intended. I'm here today as someone who has experienced it firsthand. So-called gender-affirming care for minors, I believe, is the biggest scandal, the biggest medical scandal of the 21st century. In the not-too-distant past, well-meaning people conducted lobotomies in an effort to solve problems of emotional dysregulation. Now, we are conducting sexual lobotomies. Kids, like the kid I was, need the space and support to figure out who we really are and reintegrate ourselves with their natural bodies. So please, I implore you, stop telling gender dysphoric kids that they were born in the wrong body. I am here to tell you that every child is born in the right body, and we should accept them for who they truly are. Thank you.